Right now, I'm just sitting outside, close to the shore, just relaxing. You know, one of the best things you can do after having a PTSD dream or any type of intense, strange, weird type of dream where you can sense that they're really trying to manipulate you. They're really trying to put you back to that dark place, or at least try to. It's almost like they want us to give up on ourselves. The best thing you can do is to do something to ground yourself. And that's what I'm doing right now. Just enjoying the view. As you see, that's the actual view. And this is why I love to live by the coastline. Because, you already know. You already have that. You have everything you need. If that's the kind of scenery that you can go for free. Besides gas money, but other than that, it's something that I appreciate. So what I want to get into in this video is I want to talk about dream manipulation. Now, this is a perfect example, and of course, I will spare the details because it's just it's just crazy. Let me just explain this. So, in secular terms, you often hear people say that dreams are influenced by just your day-to-day life, your past traumas. Of course, traumatic experience have a way of influencing the theme of your dreams. And also, a lot of the type of worries that you carry, things that you're concerned about. Your brain is trying to process a lot of your stress, as well as, and that includes traumas. But the thing about traumas, especially SA, is that because of how intense SA is, along with the psychological toll that it causes, given that narcissistic abuse is normally interwoven into SA, because the survivor always has to get gaslighted by the abuser, and that's a constant thing. They always have to make you deny your own experience so that you never have the strength to walk away or to acknowledge that what was done to you is actually quite worse than what they want you to believe. And the reason why they don't want you to see the severity of the trauma is because, they don't want to be held accountable for the damage they've done to you. That's a big one. But going back to what I was saying is that, a lot of in the secular world, they'll say that dreams are simply like a compilation of different themes that has to do with your day-to-day life, your worries, your concerns, stress, and of course traumatic experiences will definitely add that to it, that element. And of course, people with PTSD or CPTSD, they're gonna have some intense nightmares and dreams. Now, me personally, I would not consider this a nightmare in my sense, because what happened last night it wasn't a nightmare. It was more like, it had the theme of a psychological suspense film, something like that. And it kind of reminded me of, it also highlighted my mental health and where I was before. And it's almost like they tried to make me believe that I have not evolved. Like, they're trying to make me believe that I haven't done any work in my life. Like, it's like they want to, like, because when I woke up, right, I woke up at, not a coincidence, I woke up at 3:30 in the morning. And I had some bowel movements, actually, and I add that detail because that has a lot to do with your mind as well. Your bowel movements that's like the core of your health. So I got up, I took care of that, and I felt a great sense of relief. And when I went back to sleep, I actually had some good sleep, actually. So I guess you could add that, the secular world would say that maybe I was backed up. I don't know, but of course it's deeper than that. It's not just that. Of course, now that what time is it? It's like 8 o'clock in the morning. Obviously I'm more relaxed now. I had, I had some good sleep after that. But, we already discussed how the secular world would look at dreams and stuff like that. But what I'm getting to explain is dream manipulation. And that, I would say I'm adding the spiritual component of it, because I do believe that the same way that you wake up from these dreams, you wake up with that feeling. It's like a negative feeling that can control the way that you view life, the way you view things, basically. And because your nervous system it's like your nervous system doesn't know the difference between real life and the dream world, because it can still feel everything. You can still, all the emotions that you felt in the dream, your mind is still processing those feelings, those senses, whatever emotions you were feeling. It's going to register it as a real thing. And so that's where re-traumatization comes in. And then that's where it's almost like they not only do they try to make you relive the trauma, but it's almost like they're trying to create a fake. It's almost like it's just a fake scenario that feels real. So that's basically what a dream is, especially when it's combined with, when it has elements of your traumas. Now, you don't necessarily have to get SA. Now, of course, that's another level of disturbance, right? And distress. But even if that doesn't happen, there's the element of psychological abuse. And you could, for example, have a dream that you're in an abusive relationship with someone, whether it's someone you used to know, or it could be it's just an archetype. It's not necessarily someone that you knew. It's just somebody that, has a certain, they just playing a role, basically. And they're in your dream, and it's almost like, in the dream, it's like you're going through the abuse, the psychological, and not just that, but the aspect of somebody trying to control your life. It's almost like somebody, they don't want you to do anything in life. And that's what I felt. I'm going to just describe what I felt. Obviously, I'm not going to, it was just like when I woke up, I just felt like everything that I've done was in vain. That's the feeling that I got. It made me feel like giving up. It made me feel like, made me feel like everything that I've done, it meant nothing. That's what it felt like. It just made me feel like I'm the worst writer, or I'm the worst, I don't know what I'm talking about. Or actually, there's some major thing that I felt, and I felt like I was crazy. I felt like I was mentally unstable. And, and that's a huge element right there. That sounds like when you start to believe those things, you wake up, you start to question yourself and everything that you've accomplished. You question your own knowledge. You question everything that you thought was true. That right there, to me, that sounds like dream manipulation. That's an example. And there's so many examples that I can share with you. But in the future, I will make more videos about this. But I wanted to share this because this is something that I literally just happened a few hours ago. And I'm like, yeah, I wasn't going to make a video. But, as I was grounding myself, just really enjoying the sound of the ocean waves, it just made me want to share it now, because now I feel like I'm in my right mind. And I always have been. It's just, at least, it's like they're trying to make me believe that I'm not in my right mind, or they're trying to make me believe that it's like they want me to question everything that I'm learned, like everything that I already know to be true. Questioning my own reality and purpose, to the point that it's almost like they reminded me of the path I could have taken. That's another aspect. Let's talk about that. Actually, another thought that came to my mind, and I that this has to be an attack from Diablo, because all of a sudden I'm thinking about when I encountered somebody in my life long time ago, like over 10 years ago. I honestly don't know the exact time, but this was a long time ago before I got in a relationship. It was a girl. It's this chick that I knew for a briefly, and maybe she was sent into my life to test me, because I was going through the fork of the road yet again. Okay, we often encounter those moments where, you're given opportunities to choose between the light and the dark, right? And so that was my. It's almost like Diablo really, really wanted me to be a part of his team, basically. By pretending to be like a friend, pretending to be like someone who understands me, because it goes back to that, being hurt by people that present themselves as being such great, good people. You know what I mean? Like feeling rejected by so-called church, faith, whatever, what have you, religion, however you want to label it. There's not a specific religion or whatever. I'm just telling you, sometimes we feel rejected by God because of the past traumas that we have and the way that people have treated us, that they claim to have a certain type of faith, right? And they hurt us the most, or they reject us, or they talk bad about us, they slander us for no reason. Let me go back to that chick I was going to tell you that was sent into my life during a moment when I was given opportunity to choose between light and dark yet again. The reason why I say this is because, she was in the dark side, she was in the dark side, spiritually. And I remember we were cool, but we had the same kind of pain, same kind of past traumas, but she kind of reminded me of myself. If she was like the dark side of me. It's like she had a little bit more. I mean, we both have anger, but it's like she was more, how do you say it? It's easy to provoke her. You know what I mean? I try to contain my anger. It's just not safe. It's not wise to just let that thing go crazy. But yeah, she had that. She's had, like I said, man, a history of trauma and stuff like that. And there's other aspects I don't want to get into, but she decided to, she chose the dark side because in her mind, the dark side, it looked like the light, right? It looked like the light because to her, it gave her a sense of power. It gave her a sense of hope, and not just hope, but really power. That's the main thing, is power. People gravitate toward that because for various reasons, but for her, it was power, right? And so we were having conversations about a lot of stuff, spiritual stuff. Now, at that time, I was like an agnostic atheist, but I still believed in the spiritual realm, and I was just trying to navigate around what is the truth, so I'm just kind of learning. And so we were having conversation, and I didn't realize that she was actually, until somewhere down the line in this conversation, she admits to me that, she was, in the dark side, right? And I don't even want to say the name of it, but I was like, whoa, but I didn't know what to think of it. But in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, I know at that time I didn't believe in God, but I didn't necessarily want to be in a part of the darkness either. I didn't believe in that. I didn't want to engage in that either, because even though I didn't believe in God, I still believed in the spiritual realm. And I know that, the moment that you start to dibble and dabble with that kind of stuff, you don't know what the hell you don't know what kind of portals you're opening. It's like I still had an awareness of that because, again, I still have had, because of past supernatural encounters, I already knew about these kind of things. So I was like, yeah, I don't want to engage in that, So I was very apprehensive about that, but she was still talking to me about it and telling me how great it is. And it's so funny because it kind of reminds me of, like, when Christians talk about how great Jesus is and stuff, that same level of innocence gentleness, and enthusiasm, I literally saw her with those same feelings. And it was kind of funny to me because I'm like, this person's talking about Diablo as if he's Jesus, right? And that's literally what she tried to make me believe. Like, she tried to make me think that, because they read the Bible backwards. So it's like, in her mind, she basically said that, I remember this, she said that Diablo, she tried to tell me that Diablo was actually Jesus. And that, she tried to convince me that God is evil or something. It was just like I said, it's they read the Bible backwards, like I said. So it's like, I don't believe in that what she was telling me. But even when she was telling me that, I'm like, well, I didn't believe. I feel like this sounds crazy, but even though I didn't have faith in God at that time, I feel like my lack of faith in that, I feel like it saved me, because I'm like, well, how, in order for you to be a part of this, you have to, in a way, it's like that you have to believe in God, right? Because you're going against him in a way. That, at least that's how I interpret that. So you kind of have to believe in these deities and stuff like that, but I didn't believe in any of that. So I feel like me not believing in any of that, it saved me. Because in my mind, I'm like, I'm not going to put my faith into something that I don't know and I don't understand, that could actually end up messing me up later down the line. So I left that alone, right? But again, she tried to convince me to buy the S Bible. Now, you know what S means. SAT. I don't have to continue. I don't want to speak that name, right? Yeah, she wanted me to buy that. She said, you should give it a try. You should buy that, read it for yourself, and let me know what you think. And it's just like, and I thought about it, but I'm like, nah, I was very apprehensive. And the reason why is because, like I said, it goes back to my knowledge of the spiritual realm, right? And it's the fact that I understood that certain objects carry an energy. So if I was to have that kind of book in my home, it's going to invite a lot of dark energy. And because I've lived in a haunted house before and all the weirdness that I've seen, that's what made me think, yeah, do you know how crazy it's about to get if I have that book in the house? I said, I don't want that there, because I know that it's going to be just complete insanity. And knowing how I'm sensitive to the spiritual realm, I was like, no. I was trying to get away from that stuff, if anything. That's the reason why I didn't believe in God. I didn't want to believe in anything, because I knew that I was like, I need to make sure I know whatever energy, right? I want to, whatever entity I want to put my energy on, I want to make sure that it is an entity of righteousness, of, that's actually of divine light, of heaven. That's what I wanted to make sure. And obviously that's not what that is. So, but you know what, though? I really hope that, I don't know where she is now, because it's been a long time, but it's almost like something happened that caused, like I said, it caused this person to exit my life. I don't know what happened to her, but she got upset. I remember she was upset about something, but she thought that I had something to do with it. It had something to do with some type of issue she was having with a mutual friend. Had nothing to do with me, but I guess I don't know. I just stopped hearing from her, and I guess that's a good thing. And the mutual friend later on told me that some things about her, I won't get into it, but I was like, wow. So it just kind of made me look at her differently. Now, I don't know if it's true or not, but the fact that she's into that kind of, she's into that kind of stuff, yeah, I can kind of see that. But at the same time, I hope that she's not in that path, At the end of the day, I hope that she sees the light, or that she already saw the light, and that she's no longer in that kind of realm, because that's a very dangerous place to be, especially because the moment you start doing that, you don't have divine protection. You might feel powerful because you think Diablo's giving you the power. See, that's the thing. That's the illusion of power, is the power Diablo gives to you, right? But at the end of the day, Diablo's still going to see you as his bitch. He's not going to respect not even the people that worship him or give him energy in any way. He just doesn't. Diablo is like the ultimate narcissist. He's like the ultimate diabolical pimp. He doesn't care how much energy or how much of that money, right? The pimp doesn't care how much money you bring to him. He's still going to see you as his hoe. So it's kind of like how it is, except that instead of money, it's energy. The currency is energy. It's always that. And so, like I said, it's just dangerous to engage in that thing. But I understand that a lot of people get deceived into that, because of a lot of pain they have. And pain clouds your judgment, past traumas, and as well as demonic forces can influence the mind. And when you have a lot of pain, you get to a point where you start to look at the darkness as light, and then the light as darkness. And a lot of times, another reason why that happens is because it's a lot of people that pretend to be the light, but they're really, really full of devils inside. And I think that's another reason why some people turn to the dark side, because if people who profess to have the light really carry darkness inside, then of course a person is going to gravitate toward the darkness, thinking that there might be light inside. Interesting thought. And I know, because I've kind of had that thought process, but when the moment presented itself to where I was given an opportunity to join this person, and to engage in these things, or to even read the Bible, I didn't do it. I never bought it. I was like, I don't want that thing in my house. I was like, no. Something told me, don't fucking do it, because that shit is it's like a Ouija board. A Ouija board, it has energy, man. These objects carry, these occult objects have energy in it, and it can really, like I said, it gives you a false sense of power when you start to play with it, and then you find out now you got to pay that debt. You know what I look at it? I look at it as, it's like a credit card. You think they give you a credit limit of like $5,000, right? And then you just go crazy. You just go wild. Like, yeah, you go on a shopping spree. You look good. You got new clothes to go on a vacation or cruise, whatever, and you're just going wild. And then all of a sudden you didn't realize, actually, this isn't your money. This is your credit card. And now you have to pay back all that money you spent that you did not have. And the reason why you even got a credit card is because you don't actually have the money, so now you're in debt, and now you have to pay that back. You're given a certain amount to pay back, basically. If you don't pay it back by that time, it's gonna get pretty bad. You're gonna get hit with those marks on your credit report, and man, imagine. What's worse than having derogatory marks on your credit report? Having derogatory marks from Diablo on his report, because now that's when bad things start to happen, because that energy, the energy that you used, that you got from him, now you have to pay it back somehow. It's not a game. And because I already understood this, man, it's just transactional shit at the end of the day. Like, that's all it is. If you understand transactional, what a transactional relationship is, or transactional anything, right? You're going to understand these things, because that's all it is. Everything is transactional with a narcissist, right? So of course everything will be transactional with a pimp. Everything will be transactional with an abuser, or with the devil, Diablo. So it's the same concept. They don't just give you things just because the kindness of their own heart. No, they give you things because they're expecting you to return on that. They want that. Not saying that you should never expect a return on investment, but what I'm saying is that they're very ruthless. You know what I mean? They're very ruthless. They're very ruthless with it. Like, like I said, if they don't get that money by a certain time, they will beat your ass. That's basically what it is. And in these scenarios, it could either be a physical one or a spiritual one. But I'm telling you, a spiritual ass whooping, it may not hit you, but Diablo will hit somebody that you care about. It sounds like a mafia, doesn't it? Exactly. Everything is transactional. And that's what happens when you're in the dark, when you're in the darkness, when you're in the dark world, when you dibble and dabble in that kind of realm, that's the kind of thing that happens. And whatever, like I said, there's different ways. There's different things that happen. It's all literally, everything overlaps. All of this overlaps, literally. So that's why, like I said, it's dangerous, man. But But another thing I want to add is because what was coming to my mind after waking up from that dream had to do with, feeling like I'm broken. And me feeling like I'm broken is what caused me to revisit these memories of when I was given the opportunity to choose the darkness. Because it's not a coincidence that they placed that chick in my life. And guess what? It was only for a couple weeks or so. It wasn't even that long, like maybe 2-3 weeks, and that was it. And then she was out of my life as soon as I rejected that. That's not a coincidence. I feel like this person was sent to me, right? Whether consciously or unconsciously, she was sent to me to see if I was going to be a part of that, And it's not a coincidence that she had the same kind of trauma, similar kind of background, and so it's like I said, it's like you might feel like, wow, this person, we have a lot in common. We went through the same kind of pain, and now they're trying to recruit you into something that is a terrible, terrible idea. I'm glad I rejected it, because when you reject it, now there's nothing to talk about. There's nothing we may have the same traumas, the same pain, but our decisions were vastly different, right? So when people can't use your traumas against you to make you think you're an awful person, because ultimately we all have a choice. And it takes a lot of strength to make the right decisions. And don't get me wrong, sometimes we make the wrong decisions, right? Sometimes we pick the wrong people, but a lot of times in order for you to get involved with the wrong people, that would mean that you allow the flesh to control you, and you allow yourself to be guided by your carnal mind, and you just can't let that happen, so this is amazing, because literally that dream I had last night, they tried to manipulate me into thinking that they literally tried to make me think that I'm not good enough for God. It goes back to that. You're not good enough for God. What are you doing? You will never be good enough for God. They literally tried to convince me, and this is a very painful thing right here. They tried to convince me that I'm not representing God the right way. And then you really have to sit back and think to yourself, I humble myself before God, so much so that I didn't even think I was good enough for him. That right there, it's literally invalidating all the work that I've done on myself personally, in my life, for me. And it's invalidating the work that I do with these videos, with my writing, and all these things. It's like trying to convince me that I'm not doing the right thing, that, a person like me could never be good enough to do what I'm doing right now, that I don't belong here. I don't belong with God. That's what they tried. They tried to convince me that I don't belong with God, and they tried to take me back to that, because it's not a coincidence that when I woke up, I started having those memories about that chick and all the opportunities I had to be a part of the darkness, making me feel like that's really where I belong, trying to convince me that that's where people like me belong, in places like that. Have we been tempted? Of course. The fact that I still had a conversation, but did I ever get that book? That book? No. I said, no, I don't want that in my house. When you go through a lot of abuse, humiliation, you have a lot of trauma, especially SA. SA is like the most humiliating thing that you can go through. And it's combined with so many other things, man. It causes so many issues to your mind. It's just, it destroys your spirit damn near. You become, I'm not gonna lie, it could drive you crazy. It has a way of making you want power. You desire to have power over everything. And you may not think that you're a bad person, or that you may think you mean well, because you feel like everyone did you wrong. So you're like, you don't really give a fuck as much about others as you are yourself. In a way, it's like you're becoming a narcissist in a way. And honestly, I'm supposed to be a narcissist, given the shit that I've been through. A lot of us were given, like I said, that's an opportunity. You know, now that I look at it, it's almost like Diablo was trying to give me an opportunity to become a spiritual narcissist. Yeah, not religious, but spiritual. You know? Yeah, that's exactly what he wanted. By making me see him as someone that could relate with me, because see, he was rejected by God, and a lot of us feel rejected by God, right? I know I did. I didn't think I belonged to God. I didn't think that God loved me. I didn't think anybody loved me, really. And when you feel like everyone hates you, when you feel like, you know, it's kind of hard for you to, you start to kind of become a misanthropic. You know, it's like it's hard for you to really care about others when, you know, people have hurt you in different ways. They betrayed you. You know, whenever they showed you love, they just betray you and stuff like that. All these different experiences that you've had, you start to lose hope for humanity, really. And then you start to think that, you start to look at, like I said, because the light disguises, well, because evil people disguise themselves as light, right? Basically the religious narcissists. You know, it makes us now seek for the darkness to find light, because oftentimes we've encountered people that came into our lives disguised as light, and then later they showed us all the darkness that they have inside of them, and ended up really nearly destroying us, right? And sometimes they use their religion, you know, their so-called religion, they'll use that against us and really hurt us. And now we start to associate what is supposed to represent light, we start to associate that with darkness, and we want nothing to do with it. And that's why some of us want nothing to do with God or religion or anything like that, right? Even though religion has been corrupted in so many ways by man, right? But ultimately the faith is real, right? It's a real thing. Your faith in God is sacred, right? But when we've been wounded by these institutions and by people and all these different things, it's hard for you to really see it that way. And for me, I didn't see it that way at one point, but that's why I decided to not believe in anything. I was an agnostic atheist because I wanted to protect myself from putting my energy into something that is a lie or something that is abusive, you know, or corrupted. I did not want to do that. So therefore, that's why, you know, I was an agnostic atheist, and in a way that did protect myself. So, but yeah, I'm gonna just leave the video right here. I can go on with this, and there will be more videos to come. I thank you so much for listening. Take care, and until next time.